Millionaire's mother goes undercover as a cook to find a wife for her son. "You drop this, old lady!" shrieked a sharp voice as the wooden spoon hit the floor with a dull thud. Mama Esi bent down with difficulty to retrieve the utensil, feeling the pressure in her knees. Her trembling hand grabbed the handle stained with spicy fish broth, and she stood up slowly, bracing herself against the edge of the sink. Around her, the clatter of silverware being arranged and pots clanging grew louder. It was her first day as a cook at the headquarters of the company her late husband had founded, and no one there knew who she really was. Just hours earlier, she had quietly left the mansion where she had lived alone since the death of Kofi, her husband. She wore a faded fabric skirt and a simple cotton blouse. The scarf on her head hid the shine of her carefully braided hair, and her rubber sandals exposed her cracked heels. Nothing about her appearance revealed her true identity. The matriarch of the Agyeman family, owners of the Agyeman Group, one of the country's largest conglomerates. The idea to infiltrate the company's kitchen was born from a silent fear that had taken root in her heart. Kojo, her only son, would return in a few days from London, where he had studied and worked for nearly a decade. He would inherit his father's empire, but Esi knew there was one kind of wealth no inheritance could secure: true love. And she feared, rightly so, that the women now hovering around the company only saw Kojo as the millionaire heir, not as the man she and Kofi had raised with such sacrifice. "She looks like she came straight from the street market," murmured a quieter voice, laced with scorn. "She should be selling fried plantains, not cooking for executives," another one said, laughing. Mama Esi pretended not to hear. She wiped down a counter with a damp cloth, her fingers stiff from age and the emotion of being there, anonymous among those women. Her ears, however, were alert. She felt her plan was working. Hidden behind her apron and the pungent scent of pepper sauce, she would have the chance to observe, evaluate, and test. On that very first morning, one figure caught her eye. Sitting in a corner of the break room, with a container of rice beside her, was a young woman who hadn't said a single word. While the others laughed loudly, played with their phones, and complained about the poor people food served that day, the girl with the name tag that read Amara simply ate in silence. She didn't look at Mama Esi with disdain, not even with pity, but with a natural ease that was rare among people who saw themselves as superior. When Esi accidentally wiped a chair near where Amara was sitting, the young woman shifted gently to give her room. No grimace, no comment. Just a soft, sincere thank you. A small gesture, but one that warmed the old woman's heart. By the end of the day, Mama Esi returned home with her arms sore from the work, but a slight smile on her face. She had someone to keep an eye on. The first test had only just begun. On the second day, she arrived early, before the others. She wanted to prepare a traditional dish that required time and dedication. She grilled fish over charcoal, boiled bitter leaves with spices, and baked small cornmeal cakes seasoned with ginger and pepper. This was real food, the kind eaten in childhood and made only by experienced hands. It was also a quiet test. Who would stop to compliment the taste of simple food? Who would show gratitude? When lunch was served in the cafeteria, just like the day before, the laughter started before the first bite. "Ugh, what is that smell?" Zena grimaced at the strong aroma of the okra sauce with smoked fish. "This is village food," Lola said, fanning her hand in front of her nose. "All that's missing is well water to go with it." Mama Esi listened with her head down, serving more portions with her old ladle. She noticed Amara sitting once again in the corner, this time with a plain packet of rice she had likely brought from home. The young woman watched the commotion without interfering, but her eyes lingered for a moment on Esi's dish. "Excuse me, ma'am, did you make this today?" Amara asked, her tone gentle but curious. "I did, yes, my daughter," Mama Esi replied, surprised by the direct question. "It smells like my mom's cooking. Can I try some?" Esi smiled discreetly and served a little onto an extra plate. Amara tasted it, chewed slowly, then broke into a wide, genuine smile. "It's delicious. Tastes like home." Zena, who overheard, turned with a mocking laugh. "Tastes like home? Whose home? That stuff's slop." Amara ignored her. She kept eating as if completely at peace. And Mama Esi, deep down, was certain. This young woman was different. That night, the old woman couldn't sleep. She sat at the edge of her bed with an old notebook on her lap, where she used to write letters to her husband after his death. There she wrote, "Amara, humble heart, calm eyes, taste test, passed." It was only the beginning. More tests would come, because finding a wife worthy of her son Kojo would take more than good manners and kindness. It would take courage to resist the traps of envy and strength to keep one's heart clean amid the poison of appearances and the temptation of luxury. And Mama Esi was prepared to go all the way. "You left a stain there, old lady," Zina said with disdain, pointing at the light-tiled floor in the main hallway. Mama Esi, with the bucket in front of her and the damp cloth already in hand, sighed silently before kneeling down to clean the spot. Her back throbbed with pain, but she kept her expression calm. Her knees popped slightly as she lowered herself. Around her, the sound of heels clicking echoed through the company lobby, accompanied by laughter and the strong scent of imported perfumes. "Looks like it'll take you all day to clean that," Lola added, crossing her arms and wrinkling her nose in disgust. "You should be at home, not here." Esi didn't respond. She lowered her head and scrubbed the floor with determination, her arm muscles protesting. Inside, though, her spirit remained steady. She knew exactly what she was doing there. Her disguise as the company's cook had now evolved. She was also becoming part of the cleaning crew. More visibility, more opportunity to observe. Across the hallway, Amara was quietly watching. She didn't step in right away, but her gaze was different from the others. There was no mockery, no pity, just attention. Zina couldn't help herself. She walked over and nudged Mama Esi's shoulder with the tip of her shoe. "Hey, are you deaf? Didn't you hear what we said?" Once again, Mama Esi didn't reply, but her elderly body lost balance. She fell to the side, and the bucket tipped over, spreading dirty water across the floor. The noise of the fall drew even more attention. Laughter rang out behind her. "Somebody call an ambulance. Grandma slipped on her own mess," Lola mocked, making Zina laugh even harder. Esi tried to push herself up, leaning on her elbows, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Her hip throbbed in pain. The two women stood still, not lifting a finger. The crowd of employees nearby just watched. Some giggled under their breath, others pretended not to see. Then Amara stood up. With firm, quick steps, she crossed the hallway and knelt beside Mama Esi. "Are you okay, Mama?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Esi lifted her eyes and met Amara's. What she saw there was compassion. Amara offered her arm and helped her sit against the wall. She grabbed the wet cloth from the floor, wrung it out in the bucket and cleaned up the mess, while the laughter around them slowly faded. "She's gonna catch something dealing with that dirty water," Lola muttered, scrunching her nose. "Better that than catching bad character by association," Amara replied under her breath, not looking up from her task. Mama Esi watched every move. The way Amara acted without hesitation, unafraid of getting dirty, not looking for applause, it said more about her character than 1,000 speeches. After her shift back in the kitchen, Esi prepared the next day's dinner, a special dish of fufu with peanut soup, a traditional recipe she had mastered like few others. It was thick, aromatic, rich with spices from the local market. A meal that demanded patience and intention. The next morning, shortly before lunch, she brought the steaming bowl to the cafeteria and sat quietly at one of the smaller tables in the corner. She knew the aroma would draw attention. And it did. "What is that smell?" Lola complained as she walked in. "Smells like roadside stall food," Zina added, making a face. Esi didn't respond. She kept eating. Amara entered a few minutes later, carrying her wrapped container of rice. When she saw Mama Esi sitting alone, the target of whispers, she hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. She walked over to the older woman's table. "Good afternoon, Mama. May I sit with you?" Esi looked up, surprised and touched. She nodded with a smile. "Of course, my dear, sit down." Amara opened her lunchbox, but her eyes were quickly drawn to the steaming soup in Esi's bowl. "That looks amazing. Did you make it?" Yes, it's an old recipe from my mother. Would you like to try it? I would, Mama. Esi offered a spoonful, and Amara tasted it right there without hesitation. She savored it slowly and smiled. Tastes like a real home. Again, with the homemade food thing? Zena approached with Lola, both whispering. Maybe this broke girl thinks the old lady's food is gourmet, Lola said with scorn. Good luck with the stomachache. Amara just smiled and kept eating. Mama Esi, meanwhile, felt her heart warm again. That night, the old woman could barely sleep. With the notebook in her lap, she wrote, Amara shared food, passed another test, kind eyes, steady spirit, immune to mockery, continued observation. But deep down, Mama Esi was beginning to feel something beyond interest. It was affection. A young woman who reminded her of her own youth, of the humility before the wealth. And she knew the days ahead would be crucial. There was still much to discover, much to test, and Amara's heart would soon face the greatest challenge yet, Kojo's arrival. How my hip, cried Mama Esi, as the bucket of water crashed to the floor of the women's restroom, spilling its contents everywhere. The sound echoed loudly down the hallway, prompting several doors to swing open. It took only seconds for Zena and Lola to appear at the restroom entrance, drawn by the noise like vultures sensing blood. Oh no, she fell again, exclaimed Lola in a mock, concerned voice. Think she needs an ambulance this time. Or maybe a walker, said Zena, crossing her arms. Seriously, this old woman is too old for this. She should be at home watching soap operas, not crawling around the company. Mama Esi, lying on the floor with her hand on her side, groaned convincingly. It was all part of her plan, a test. She wanted to see who among those women cared about more than appearances and status. She wanted to see who would act. Please, someone help me, she said, feigning weakness, her voice low and trembling, almost a whisper. We're not janitors, ma'am, Zena replied, turning away. We already deal with enough mess around here, and we don't need yours too. The two laughed, a light, cold laugh that echoed against the tiles. Neither made a move to help. That's when Amara appeared. She walked into the restroom in a hurry, stopping immediately at the sight in front of her. Mama Esi on the floor, wet and shaking. Zena and Lola leaning against the wall, unmoved. For a moment, the restroom went silent. Mama, what happened? Amara rushed over and crouched beside her, supporting her by the shoulders. Did you fall? Are you in a lot of pain? My hip. I slipped on the water, Esi replied, squinting her eyes, pretending to struggle to stay conscious. You two aren't going to help? Amara asked, glaring at Zena and Lola. And get soaked like you? No thanks, Lola replied, laughing. She should learn how to walk properly next time, Zena added. Amara pressed her lips together and without another word rolled up her sleeves. She grabbed a dry cloth by the sink and started mopping the floor around Mama Esi. Then, carefully, she helped the older woman up. She steadied her against the wall and wiped her sweaty face with a handkerchief pulled from her own bag. You need to rest. Come, I'll take you to the break room. My dear, you don't have to do this, Esi murmured, this time truly moved. I do. Because respect isn't optional, Amara said firmly. The two walked slowly to the break room. Mama Esi, still leaning on the young woman's shoulder, felt tears welling behind her eyes. She had never imagined someone who knew nothing of her true identity would treat her with such dignity. That night, Mama Esi prepared a simple meal, but with the kind of flavor only the heart understands: jollof rice, grilled fish, and fried plantains. As the food cooked, she set the table carefully and waited. Right on time, Amara knocked at the door. Good evening, Mama, she said with a smile, taking in the aroma coming from the kitchen. It smells amazing in here. Come in, my dear. Tonight's meal is the real thing, Esi replied, trying to hide her emotion. The inside of the house surprised Amara. She had expected something run down, but found a simple, clean and welcoming home. There were embroidered cloths on the pillows, old paintings on the walls, and a peaceful atmosphere that made her smile. Have a seat. It'll be ready in a minute, said Esi, pulling the last pieces of fish off the grill. As they ate, they talked about life. Amara shared that she lived with her sick mother and younger brother who was still in school. She said she needed the job, but she wouldn't step on anyone to get ahead. "Being honest is what lets me sleep in peace," she said with a soft smile. Esi listened in silence, taking in every word with her heart. It felt like watching a flower bloom before her eyes. She hadn't realized how strong Amara was, not until now. After dessert, slices of ripe mango with chili and lime, Mama Esi gently touched the young woman's hand across the table. "Amara, my dear," she began softly, "I'd like to ask you something." "Of course, Mama. Go ahead." "I live alone, and sometimes eating alone is hard on the heart. Would you come have dinner with me from time to time?" Amara looked surprised. She gazed at the older woman with warmth and answered without hesitation, "Mama, it would be an honor." Outside the house, hidden behind the window, Zena and Lola were spying on them. "I told you," Zena whispered angrily, "that Amara girl is cozying up to the crazy old lady to climb the corporate ladder. She's not stupid." "This isn't over," Lola muttered. "We'll find out what she's up to." But Mama Esi, sitting at the table with Amara, didn't know, or pretended not to know, that shadows were already moving. That night, as she washed the dishes under the soft kitchen light, she had only one thought. She passed another test and asked for nothing in return. She's ready for the next step, meeting Kojo. Because very soon, her son would return, and when he did, nothing would ever be the same. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I may," announced the security guard at the main entrance of the company, making way with a gesture, "Mr. Kojo Agyeman has just arrived." The glass doors slid open in sync with the rising buzz among the staff in the lobby. Kojo's confident footsteps echoed across the polished floor as he crossed the hall, a leather briefcase in one hand and a navy blue blazer fitting perfectly over his broad shoulders. His face was composed, but his sharp eyes scanned the room with precision. His haircut, flawless. His wristwatch, subtle yet high-end. He radiated the poise of someone educated at the world's finest universities, yet still carried something deeply rooted, a trace of his father's legacy and the African soul that never left him. From the reception desk to the upper floor, every eye turned to him. Female employees rushed to fix their hair, spritzed perfume on their wrists, and crossed their legs just so. Zena smoothed her tight dress with a subtle tug. Lola reapplied lipstick frantically. "He's even better looking than in the photos," Lola whispered, eyes glued to him. "And way richer," Zena replied with a calculated smile. "I'm going to be the first to greet him." But Kojo didn't seem to notice the flurry around him. His stride was purposeful, his face neutral. He gave a brief nod to the manager who came to greet him and continued toward the elevator. Then, halfway there, something made him stop. There, nearly invisible among the employees passing by, was a woman with a simple headscarf, kneeling on the floor with a bucket and a brush. She scrubbed the hallway corners slowly, her face sweaty and her focus on the cleaning. Kojo furrowed his brow. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, stopping in front of her. "Are you cleaning alone? Where's the rest of the janitorial staff?" Mama Esi looked up, surprised. She hadn't expected to be noticed by him so soon. "I am, sir. It's just me today." Before she could say more, Zena appeared beside them with a sweet smile and a condescending tone. "Oh, Mr. Kojo, don't worry about her. She's just a cook who started helping with the cleaning on her own. Simple folks' habits." Kojo turned his gaze to Zena, his expression serious. "And because she's simple, she doesn't deserve respect?" Zena froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "Every person here has dignity, regardless of the job they do," he added, before turning and heading to the elevator. Mama Esi followed her son with her eyes. She felt a quiet pride and deep relief. Kojo was still the same, just attentive, sensitive to what mattered. His heart was ready. Now all that remained was to see if he could recognize Amara's worth. Later, already settled in his new office, Kojo remained restless. The stack of documents before him didn't hold his attention. His thoughts returned to the woman in the hallway, and even more to the young woman who, just after, had greeted him with a simple, "Good afternoon, Mr. Kojo," and walked away without any pretense. She wore a modest pencil skirt, a cotton blouse, and her hair was pulled into a natural bun. No heavy makeup, no flashy accessories, yet her eyes stood out. Calm, deep, with a quiet strength. "Rose?" Kojo called through the intercom. "Yes, sir?" "Could you please send up a junior staff member? Her name is Amara." "Of course, sir. I'll notify her right away." Downstairs, Amara froze when she heard the message. The director wanted to see her. She tried to think if she had done something wrong. A mistake in the reports? Zena and Lola, overhearing the call, exchanged glances. "Knew it," Zena whispered. "It started. She moved faster than we thought." "She's probably got some kind of voodoo stashed in her purse," Lola added. Amara ignored the murmurs, took a deep breath and went upstairs. The door to Kojo's office creaked softly as it opened. "Come in, please," he said, seeing her standing in the doorway. She stepped inside cautiously. The fine wood furniture, contemporary art on the walls, and panoramic view of the city gave the office an almost intimidating aura. "Good afternoon, Mr. Kojo." "Good afternoon, Amara. Please, have a seat." She obeyed, hands resting calmly in her lap. "I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable earlier," he said. "Back there in the hallway, and I don't like seeing anyone disrespected." "That was very kind of you," she replied with a gentle smile. "But it wasn't necessary to call me just for that." Kojo leaned his elbows on the desk. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something. The lady in the kitchen, the one helping with cleaning, she seems close to you. Do you know her well?" Amara smiled, and her eyes lit up. "Mama Esi?" "Yes. I haven't known her long, but she's special. She treats everyone with dignity, even when no one notices her, and she makes the best food in the company, no question." Kojo relaxed a bit in his chair. The way Amara spoke about the woman moved him. It was sincere. No exaggeration, no forced familiarity. "Thank you, Amara. That tells me a lot about you as well." She nodded slightly, unsure of what to say. She felt the weight of his gaze on her, but it was a gentle weight, like quiet recognition, not pressure. When Amara left the office, her steps calm but her heart racing, Kojo kept staring at the door. He remained silent for several minutes, as if trying to make sense of something he couldn't yet name. Meanwhile, in the supply closet, Mama Esi pretended to organize pots, her ears tuned to the hallway chatter. Soon she heard Lola's voice, low. "So? What do you think happened in there? Maybe she's already getting Granny to campaign for her," Zena replied bitterly. "If she thinks she's going to rise using that old woman, she's gonna fall faster than she climbed." Mama Esi clenched her fists tightly. This was far from over, and the more Amara shone, the darker the shadows around her became. She knew the real test was yet to come, because now Kojo had noticed her, and when love and envy share the same space, the fire begins to burn. "Look who finally showed up," Zena said with a crooked smile, crossing her arms as she watched Amara enter the company lobby. Amara pretended not to hear. Her steps were steady, but her heart was unsettled. The day had just begun, but already she felt the weight of the stairs, the whispers spreading like smoke, all because of her meeting with Kojo the day before. In the break room, Mama Esi stirred a pot of yam and dried fish soup. The aroma drifted through the air, warm and comforting, but not even the most welcoming scent could calm what was about to unfold. Elsewhere in the building, Zena was typing furiously on her phone, her red nails tapping the screen like sharpened claws. Lola, beside her, bit the edge of her nail and whispered, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" "Of course. She's no better than anyone here, just because she walks around acting like a saint," Zena scoffed. "Thinks she's going to win over the boss with plain rice and a clean face. She's about to learn how this game is played." Hours later, Amara received a strange message. No number, no ID. "Meet me at the Grand Royal Hotel at 7 p.m. Come alone. I have something important to tell you." She frowned. A scam. But there was something about the message, something unsettling. It felt serious and dangerous. That evening at home, while reheating dinner on the stove, she mentioned it to Mama Esi. "Mama, I got a weird message today. It told me to go to a hotel alone at 7 tonight, said they had something important to tell me." Mama Esi froze, her gaze locked on the wooden spoon stirring the soup. Who sent it? I don't know. Unknown number. She took a deep breath and forced a smile. Be careful, my daughter. Not everything that glitters is gold. At 6:45 p.m., Amara stood outside the imposing Grand Royal Hotel. The lobby glowed with golden chandeliers and thick carpets like clouds. She hesitated at the entrance, took a deep breath and stepped inside. In a discreet corner of the attached restaurant, a familiar figure was waiting. Zena. Knew you'd come, she said, raising her eyes with a smirk disguised as a smile. Have a seat. Amara sat down slowly. Why? What do you want with me? Zena leaned over the table. Let's get to the point. I know the boss has noticed you, and I know you're smarter than you pretend to be. So I'll give you a golden opportunity. Leave the company, disappear, and forget about Kojo. Amara's eyes widened in shock. What? Zena pulled a brown envelope from her purse and slid it across the table. Money, stacks of large bills, neatly arranged. This will cover 6 months' rent. Your brother can go back to school. Your mom needs treatment? Use it. Just vanish. Amara's stomach twisted. For a moment, she thought of all that money could solve. The mounting bills. Her mother's medication. Her brother's tired eyes, but no, it was wrong. It was a trap. It was filth. With steady hands, she pushed the envelope back. No. Zena smiled. A cold, hard smile. You sure? Because if you don't take this now, you'll wish you had. Amara stood. If you think you can buy my dignity, I'm sorry. I'm not you. And she left. Across the room, sitting discreetly with a scarf covering part of her face, Mama Esi had been watching. Every gesture, every word, every choice. She had seen it all, and now she was sure. Amara had passed the hardest test, temptation. That night, Amara walked the empty streets with her heart pounding. What had just happened? Why so much hatred? She wasn't even trying to win Kojo over. But somehow, just being herself was enough to threaten people who lived behind masks. At home, she lay down without eating. Just as she was drifting to sleep, her phone vibrated. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Same number. Her blood ran cold. The next day, Amara arrived early at the company. She tried to ignore the stares, sat at her desk, breathing deeply. But minutes later, she heard a loud sound from Zena's phone speaker. Everyone, quiet! Listen to this. Amara's voice, clearly edited, echoed through the hallway. Kojo already noticed me. It's only a matter of time before he wants me. This company is my ticket to a new life. The distorted version of the conversation filled the space with murmurs and laughter. All eyes turned to Amara with surprise, sarcasm, and judgment. So the little saint has plans, huh? Someone mocked. Knew nobody's that humble without a motive, said another. Amara stood still. Her face burned, but she didn't flinch. She wouldn't give Zena the satisfaction. She simply clenched her fists and walked to the break room in silence. In the conference room, Kojo had heard the noise and stepped out to investigate. What is this? He asked, his sharp gaze sweeping across the floor. Silence fell. Zena tried to play it off. Oh, just a joke, Mr. Kojo. A funny audio from Amara, just having fun. Funny? Kojo stared her down. Bring Amara, now. Amara entered the room minutes later, eyes lowered but posture firm. What happened? Kojo asked, serious. I'll set up. Someone's trying to silence me, she answered, her voice tight. Kojo looked at her for a moment, and in her eyes, he saw the truth. Later that evening, Amara was having dinner at Mama Esi's house. The two sat in silence until the older woman placed her hand gently over Amara's. Tell me something, my daughter. Do you have feelings for my son? Amara choked on a piece of fish. Feelings? Mama, I barely know him. Mama Esi smiled gently. I believe you. Just be careful. Those girls won't stop here. But why do you care so much about me? Esi hesitated. It wasn't time to reveal the truth. She simply squeezed the young woman's hand and said, "Because I see something in you that's rare these days, and because sometimes protecting someone like you is protecting what's still good in the world." But even she didn't know the worst was still to come, because now Zina had decided to play dirty, and she wouldn't stop until Amara was completely destroyed. "Place her under arrest for fraud and corporate embezzlement." The officer's voice cut through the quiet morning like a sharp blade. Amara felt her knees buckle for a second. The company hallway, once filled with chatter and the tapping of keyboards, fell into an uncomfortable silence. All eyes turned to her. "Me?" she whispered, stunned. This has to be some kind of mistake. I never..." The snap of the handcuffs silenced her. "Are you Amara Okoye?" the officer asked, emotionless. She nodded, still in disbelief. "Then you are being detained under investigation. You'll have your chance to speak." Employees emerged from doorways, squinting for a better look. Zina and Lola watched from the break room, their faces painted with fake surprise. "How awful, right?" Lola whispered, covering her mouth. "I warned everyone," Zina muttered. "But nobody listens." Amara was escorted out to the company's front entrance. The cold metal of the cuffs felt heavier than any burden she'd carried. Her eyes searched for a familiar face but met only blank stares or judgment. From the far end of the lobby, Mama Esi watched in silence. Her soul trembled, the color drained from her face. Without a word, she slowly removed the scarf from her head, as if trying to breathe more freely. Her eyes filled with tears, but she stood firm. It wasn't time to break her disguise. Not yet. In the police car, Amara trembled. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. At the station, she was led into a cold room with peeling paint and the scent of mold. A guard watched her dispassionately from behind the bars. "I didn't do anything," she repeated, almost like a prayer. "I swear on everything sacred." "People swear even on their knees," the guard replied, not lifting his eyes from his newspaper. "But the company accounts say otherwise." Hours passed. She lost track of time before the guard finally returned. "Someone posted your bail." "Who?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The guard shrugged. "They're outside. See for yourself." Amara walked into the station's front lobby, and as the doors opened, there she was. The woman from the kitchen, the one who always called her my daughter. Mama Esi. "Mama," Amara said, trembling. Esi rushed to her and held her tightly. The two remained there in silence for long moments. "I swear I didn't do it," Amara said, her voice breaking. "I know, my daughter," Mama Esi replied, stroking her hair tenderly. "I know." At that very moment, Kojo was going through emails from the finance department when one subject line stopped him cold. "Suspicious transactions. Employee, Amara Okoye." His heart skipped. "This can't be," he muttered. He picked up the phone. "Rose, get me last week's security footage from the office." Minutes later, the response arrived. "Sir, all recordings from that period were deleted. Someone wiped the files directly from the system." Kojo felt his stomach turn. It was a setup. Someone was hiding the truth. Across town, Zina sipped a colorful cocktail at an upscale bar. Lola scrolled feverishly through social media, reading comments on the company's official page. "It's all over the gossip sites. Employee arrested for theft at Aguiman Group," Lola said. "Kojo left the office in a rush today. Think he went after her?" Zina scoffed. "Let him. At this point, no one's going to care about her. She's been cancelled, branded, he'll forget." "But what if someone investigates?" Lola asked, nervous. "What if they dig too deep?" "They won't. The footage is gone. The bank records were manipulated. Everything's clean," Zina said firmly. But at that exact moment, high above the quiet city, Kojo stood staring at his reflection in the office window. He thought of Amara, of her eyes when she said she was innocent. Then he grabbed his phone, dialed quickly, and left the building without telling anyone. Back at Mama Esi's house, Amara tried to pull herself together. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a warm cloth Esi had brought her, still shivering from cold and stress. "Why is this happening to me?" she whispered. "Why?" "Because you're strong, And strong people always disturb the weak, Esi answered softly. But there's more ahead, my daughter. You need to be ready. Ready for what, Mama? Esi hesitated. She almost told her, but held back. Just stay strong, and remember who you are. Before they could say more, there was a knock at the door. 3 sharp taps. Amara rose slowly, opened the door. There was Kojo, no blazer, his eyes sunken, his face full of emotion. I need to know the truth, he said, stepping inside carefully. Tell me, Amara, did you steal? She swallowed hard. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but now they burned with determination. No, never, I swear. Kojo didn't look away. He was searching for something only the heart could recognize. He took a deep breath. I'm going to find out who did, and if I find proof, they'll pay for it. And he left. Inside, Amara sat slowly. Mama Esi came to her side, eyes brimming. He'll hear you, my daughter. The truth always finds its way. But they both knew the path ahead would still be long, because now it wasn't just Amara at stake. It was the honor of an entire family, the legacy of a name, and in a mother's heart, the certainty that the moment of revelation was drawing near. Gone? What do you mean the footage is gone? Kojo's voice was low, restrained, but laced with fury. On the other end of the line, the head of security hesitated. Yes, sir, all footage from last week was deleted. It's as if it never existed. Kojo hung up without another word. He stood from his chair, fists clenched. He stared out the large office window. The sky was heavy with dark clouds, mirroring the storm building inside him. Everything was clear now. Amara was innocent. Someone had set her up, and he had allowed it to happen. He reached for his phone but didn't dial. He slipped it back into his pocket. He needed to think. He needed to act precisely. His name, his company, his mother, everything was tangled up in this, and in the eye of the storm was Amara, a woman who, even under public humiliation, had held her head high. The memory of her tear-filled but unwavering eyes gripped his chest tightly. Meanwhile, in the ground floor office, Zena walked with confidence. The heels of her sandals tapped against the floor with a rhythm of victory. In the break room, she spread forced cheer. Let's keep things professional, folks, okay? That whole situation with Amara has nothing to do with us. Let's focus on work, she said with a smile that never reached her eyes. Lola, seated beside her, nodded, but uneasily. Her phone buzzed constantly with new messages. Rumors were spreading online, and the company's image was beginning to take a hit. Are you sure this was a good idea? Lola whispered as she pulled Zena aside. Too late now. No one's going to dig into it, and if Kojo keeps pushing, he'll end up thinking she lied from the start. Her image is already ruined. But Zena was wrong. Someone was already digging, someone who stayed in the shadows. In a modest home in the old part of town, Amara sipped a hot tea prepared by Mama Esi. The silence between them was heavy. Outside, a soft, steady rain began to fall. Everything's falling apart, Mama, Amara whispered. My name, my dignity, my peace, everything. Mama Esi sat beside her, took her hand, and held it firmly. What is true, my daughter, cannot be completely destroyed. Lies may spread like fire, but truth is water, and water always finds a way to break through. Amara sighed, trying to hold on to those words. In the next room, Mama Esi entered quietly. She picked up her old notebook, the one where she wrote thoughts she never said out loud. Sitting at her desk, she wrote with a steady hand. She resisted the money, she endured the humiliation. Now she faces injustice with dignity. She is ready, even if she doesn't know it yet. That same night, Kojo left the company's main building and drove to an old branch office where, according to archived records, a physical backup of the security footage might still exist. There, with help from the company's longest-serving technician, a man who had once worked with his father, he dug through the files. Sir, there's something here. It wasn't fully deleted. There are traces of access. And look at this, the technician said, pointing to a specific date. Kojo stepped closer. The video was damaged. Parts were corrupted. But for a brief moment it clearly showed Zina walking out of the IT room with a box in her hands. "Bingo," Kojo said, eyes narrowing. The next day, Mama Esi invited Amara to dinner once more. She prepared coconut rice with shrimp and a stew of fresh vegetables. The table was set with simple flowers and a single candle at the center. When Amara arrived, she wore a light blue blouse and no makeup. Her eyes still bore the signs of exhaustion, but a shy smile had returned. "Do you still believe in me, Mama? Since the very first day." "Why?" Mama Esi hesitated. She looked into the young woman's eyes. For the first time, she thought about telling her everything, that she owned the company, that Kojo was her son, that this had all been a plan to find her, but it still wasn't the right moment. "Because what I see in you can't be bought or taught, and because my heart knows when something is true." Amara smiled, moved. Then, as if on cue, the doorbell rang. Mama Esi went to open it. There stood Kojo, drenched from the light rain. "Good evening, Mama Esi," he said firmly. "May I come in?" She nodded. Amara rose from the table, surprised to see him. Kojo looked her straight in the eye. "You were telling the truth. I know that now, and I've found the first piece of proof." He handed her a laminated photo, a still image of Zina in the hallway outside the server room. "It's not everything, but it's a start. I promised I'd investigate, and I won't stop until your name is cleared." Amara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She simply nodded. "Thank you, Kojo. Don't thank me yet. This," he turned to Mama Esi, "is only the beginning." When he left, Mama Esi closed the door and leaned against it for a moment. The silence in the room was full and weighty. "Mama, what's happening?" Amara asked, confused. Esi looked at her with tenderness, and for the first time, with something more in her eyes, a trace of revelation. "It's time you learned who Kojo really is." But before the truth could come to light, one final trial remained, because Zina, upon sensing what was coming, refused to go down alone. She had already begun her next move, and the end was near. "Are you sure about what you saw?" Lola asked, her voice barely a whisper. Zina stared at her phone screen, unblinking. There it was. The image, a still from the security camera, the one she had thought she erased. It clearly showed her silhouette leaving the IT room with a box of files in her hands. "This wasn't supposed to survive," she muttered, her voice trembling with fury. "I deleted everything. Everything. And if Kojo—" Lola hesitated. "If he goes after it?" Zina let out a short, bitter laugh. "Then we play dirty. If they want war, they'll get war." The next morning, the company felt suspended in time. The air was different. The forced smiles of the employees and the whispers in the corridors fell silent as Kojo walked through reception. His steps were firm. His eyes searched for no one. They were fixed. In his hand, an envelope. On the security footage, a face. And in his mind, a decision. Mama Esi arrived shortly after, dressed in her cook's uniform. She carried a tray of cornmeal fritters with honey and ginger, one last humble meal before the truth came out. Across the room, Amara sat at her desk as always. No makeup, no pretense. Just the same woman who, from the very beginning, chose dignity even when no one was watching. "Amara," Kojo said as he approached, "can you come with me?" She stood without hesitation. The whispers began. Zina watched it all from afar, teeth clenched. In the conference room, there were only 3 people present: Kojo, Amara, and Mama Esi. "I wanted you here, Mother," Kojo said, turning to Esi. Amara's eyes widened. "Mother?" Esi gave a gentle smile. She removed the scarf from her head, revealing her carefully braided hair. She also took off the apron. She let herself be seen fully. "I'm not the company cook, Amara," she said. "I'm the co-founder alongside my late husband, and Kojo is my son." Amara took a step back. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You're probably wondering why," Esi continued. "I went undercover as a cook to observe who was real. I needed to protect my son, my family, our legacy. I've seen women who are beautiful on the outside and rotten within. But you—" Kojo interrupted, his voice soft. You never tried to impress, never asked for anything. You were just good. That, Amara, is rarer than any diploma. She covered her mouth with both hands. Tears came without warning. I don't know what to say. Say nothing, Esi replied, walking over to her. Just accept it. What's true is always revealed. Before they could continue, the conference room door burst open. It was Zena. So this is it, she said loudly. She's the chosen one, the little saint you've been protecting. Kojo turned to her, calm but firm. Zena, you're fired, and the company's legal team will handle what you've done. I won't go down alone, she screamed. You think she's innocent? Just wait. She pulled out her phone, trying to show something, but Kojo was quicker. He raised the envelope in his hand. Here are the records of the manipulated bank transfers, backup copies, and a report linking your name directly to the system sabotage. You're not just cruel, you're a criminal. Zena went pale. You don't know if I was alone. But I know enough, he replied, and if you open your mouth again, you'll answer in court. She backed away. Outside, Lola lowered her eyes. She knew it was over. Days later, Amara's name was cleared. The company issued an official retraction. Her record was restored. Social media filled with messages of support, but none of that mattered to her anymore. What mattered most was there that night on Mama Esi's porch, where Amara had dinner with Kojo and the older woman, laughing, talking, like a real family. Not one built by blood alone, but by values. Do you forgive me? Kojo asked, eyes fixed on hers. You believed me when it mattered, Amara replied. That's all that counts. Mama Esi watched in silence, a quiet smile on her lips. She knew the mission was complete, and in her old notebook, she wrote one final time, Amara, brave in shame, honest in temptation, steadfast in injustice. My son found a woman, and I found a daughter. The African night sky was clear that evening, and somewhere within it, Kofi, Esi's husband, smiled. Because the Aguman legacy was never just about money or power, it was about heart, and now heart was in the right hands.